Hi, you guys. How's things? How have you been? All right. So I did finish all of the cereal boxes. I did both sides of all of them. And I'm super excited. These are going to be really fun. And what I'm thinking is that these can just be turned into all kinds of different little projects. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to do the same thing with all of them, right? I can make some little journals. I can make some tags. I can I can make smaller little journals. I think it would be really cool to make a bunch of little minis, like little tiny ones. So I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll do. But um, in the meantime, I think it's important to sort of get these to a point where we can work with them and we sort of know like what we have, you know what I mean? And I usually don't plan this out very well, but um so one thing I noticed is that they did get pretty stiff, like even where the creases are from the box, it's still relatively stable on most of them. This one is a little weaker, but um, a lot of people won't have a, um, a paper cutter, like a guillotine, or I guess like maybe a rotary trimmer would probably work okay for this too. It's just that this is wider than 12 inches. So um, you might want to take a, yeah, see this won't fit in there. So we need to trim it down just a little bit so we can work with it in the paper cutter. Unless you have, like I do have one that's 18 inches. So I can get this into my paper, one of my paper cutters. Thank you, Carla. That was my Christmas present from Carla. So I can work with it, but I know a lot of people don't. So um, what I would say is if you've got a pair of scissors like these, um, just to try to just to try to trim it down a little bit and still, salvage the part that you're going to cut off. Like measure how wide your piece is, because we want to get this to less than 12 inches, right? So there is a little bit of a crease where it was like the top of the box or the bottom of the box, and just try to cut that as straight as you can, with like a kind of heavy duty pair of scissors. And I mean, you can clean it up later to get it like really straight and even, but and we're going to use these little pieces too, these little strips that are cut off. Like these are totally usable for other stuff. So just try to get it to where you can fit it into your paper cutter, and then what I did was I just kind of cut it. I'm going to do this with the paper cutter now, but I just kind of trimmed it up, like the very edges where you could still see some of the cereal box or whatever, because I don't really want to see that. So I just sort of just took the very edge of that off, so that I kind of had a clean, piece to work with. So, like I don't know if I would save these. I'm not going to save those, just saying. So what I did was I cut mine down to 8 inches by 11 inches. Okay. So that's basically like the front of the box and the back of the box. If you're talking about this like small size cereal boxes, you guys might have different size boxes. I don't know, but that's what I'm working with. So that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I don't know if I really want to make a journal that is, that wide, where this was the cover. You know what I mean? Like where it had a front and back cover that was that big. For me, that's not what I would want to do. But I think that 8 by 11 makes a nice size for like a medium size journal, you know? So I kind of like that size, but I think it would be cool to do some even smaller, like I said. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to trim this off where I can see the edges of the, this doesn't fit on my desk all the way, where I can see that there's the edge of the box. You know, you can kind of tell. So what I did was I just took my pencil and I kind of marked it right there at the top and then at the bottom, because you don't want to rely on this being straight, you know, to put it up to the edge. And, you know, it's just kind of hard to line things up unless you have a really clean edge. So I just took my pencil mark at the bottom where I can see it and lined it up with the blade, with the edge of the blade, and then took the top and lined it up so I could cut it. And I know that that's straight now, you know. So I was cutting off that edge of the box where it was creased, because I feel like I don't want that to be the edge of anything, because it's not, you know, strong. So anyway, so I've got that side cut off, and then I'm going to flip it around so I can do, I'm going to basically work with nothing larger than 8 by 11, you know. Sorry about that, you guys. So I go to 8 inches, and then I'm going to cut this down to 11. So I just want to kind of clean up that edge just a tiny bit where I cut it with the scissors. And then I'm going to measure to 11 inches. So at least now I've got pieces that are all kind of the same size. Just for my own sanity, you know. So let me clean this edge up just a little bit. And then I'm going to go to 11 inches. And then 8 inches. And I was going to do 8.5 by 11, but then I wind up, if I go 8.5, then I wind up with part of the score in the actual box, and I feel like that weakens it a little bit. So anyway, you just wind up with these little strips that are so cool. Like, you can do so many cool little tags and tickets and charms and whatnot with those. So I thought maybe we could just work on kind of getting these pieces to a manageable size. And if you're planning on just keeping yours as one piece, you know, then you don't need to worry about it. But I do want to trim some of this stuff off. And, you know, so this won't fit in this trimmer either, but I can see the crease on the box. So I'm just going to make a little pencil mark there. And then, I don't know if you guys can see, and then I'm going to make another little pencil mark at the bottom where I can tell that that's where the box was folded. Okay. And then I'm just lining it up, my little mark at the top of the blade, and then my other mark at the bottom of the blade. And that way I know that it's straight, you know, without relying on the ruler or the lines on the cutter, because that could be off, you know. It could be off at the top because it's got this jaggedy stuff. And anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. So I'm just trimming all the little kind of raggedy edges off, even though those are cool. Like, I don't have anything against raggedy edges at all. I'm just trying to I don't want remnants of the cereal box necessarily. So I wind up with these really cool strips. And then So you want to sort of feel for where you've got the creases in the cereal box, and maybe cut those off, because those aren't, you know, those aren't the sturdiest pieces, although they're not terrible. Like, they're not super flexible. It's just, it's working out for me to cut these down to 8 by 11. Like, that's just what I determined was the best size for me to work with. Let's see. Hold the phone. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to eyeball that. This one is a little bit, there, perfect. And then 11. Okay. So then I take my strips and put them in my pile. I have this piece where I had a really hard time taking the box apart, and I just don't feel like dealing with it, so it's going in the trash. But yeah, so you see what I'm saying. Just try to maybe clean them up and get it to where, you know, it's not such a beast to deal with, you know. Okay, so here's the edge of the, and you can bend it, like, you know, I can kind of bend it and see where those creases are. So I did, you saw that one that I actually did fold in half. And this is just way too thick to do on a scoreboard. So to get that straight, I'll show you what I did. So this one is actually coming out weird. But that's okay. Well, I guess it's not that weird. Hold on. Hold the phone. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. So I'm going to cut this off. That strip. And then 11. Okay. So see, you can see the cereal box just a little bit on the edge of this, but that's okay. I can add something on there, you know. So there's my little strips. One of them's kind of raggedy, but raggedy's okay. This feels pretty sturdy on the edge of that one. I'm going to cut this edge off first. This one's a little bit wider. And then I'm going to go 11. So now that I know I have straight lines, like straight cuts, I can use those on the grid on the paper trimmer, you know. Now I actually trust them, you know. So, okay, wait, what did I do? Okay, that's 11. And then I'm going to go 8. Actually, I'm going to cut it this way. Okay, so this one I actually wound up with a pretty wide piece. I only have one more to cut here, guys. And then we can look at some other stuff. So I want to trim. I know, I'm sorry you guys can't see the whole production here, but and you just have to figure out how you want to cut yours, you know, if you're going to cut it at all. I'm going to cut this strip right here, but I need to mark it. Okay, mark the top and the bottom and then line those up. Okay. Actually, Probably didn't even need to do that. Okay, so I'm just bending it a little bit so I can see where the crease is. And then I'm going to cut on that line. So part of my goal is to cut this down to usable sizes, and then also so that I can manage it on my trimmer, you know. So let me cut this raggedy bit off. I like this actually. Maybe I'll leave this one a little bigger. And then cut that weirdness off. Cut off this weirdness. Okay, and then how wide is this? So this is not 8 inches. It's like 7.5. So I'm gonna, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna cut this one. I'm gonna cut this one into like wider pieces that I can use for other stuff, maybe, you know. Okay. So got it. Just get it all cut up somehow, you know. It doesn't, you don't have to necessarily have a plan at this point. We're just like, when I do that kind of collage, I really am just trying to kind of get my juices flowing and, you know, see what it says to me. Like it talks to you and tells you what sort of what it wants to be, you know. Okay, so this one, I did fold it in half. And it's, you know, it's kind of risky to just fold it, you know. So I'll try to do it again, even though it didn't work exactly perfect. But so this is 11 inches long. So what I want to do is I want to go right in the middle of 11 inches, which is 5.5. So I'm going to make a little mark, my pencil at 5.5. There, and another one at 5.5. Okay, and then I'm going to take my heavy ruler and I'm just going to line that up, push down on the ruler pretty hard, and then just pull up the back. So now I have at least a crease that I know is a straight line, you know. And there is going to be some cracking along that part. So that's okay. I just take a little bit of sandpaper. I take sandpaper. It's like relatively rough, coarse sandpaper. I don't know what the grit is exactly on this, but I know somebody will ask me. But anyways, I just glue it around like a tongue depressor so I can use it like a nail file, but it's a little bit more coarse. And yes, you can get nail files that are really coarse, like for acrylic nails and stuff. But I'd rather just make them myself since I have sandpaper and I don't do my nails. So anyway, I actually used to do acrylics a long time ago, and myself and other people. Anyway, so that works out pretty well, and that's just a cool little journal cover, I think, you know. Over time, I feel like this opening and closing and opening and closing a million times, it's going to start to weaken that, right? So I personally want to kind of reinforce that with something. If this is going to be a journal, just, you know, that size. So the easiest thing to do is to just add some fabric right along that edge. And what I might do then is I might try to do maybe like 6 of them like this, and then I can maybe cut some of these in half and then do some smaller ones, you know, where like it would be, that would be the size of it open. So that's an option. Just glue some fabric along that spine on both sides. I want to do like a lot of machine stitching on these too. So, so definitely want to keep that in mind, that that's what I want to do. You know, because I thought it would be cool to try to use up some of my other scraps of other things, you know, like, even like charms and things like that. Like, I just think it would be fun to just make these kind of like uber junky, you know, and totally like repurposed. So then I thought, if I was going to do some minis, like some real small ones, I think it would be cool to actually build a spine on them, you know, just to make them even cooler. And also use some of these strips. Use some of these strips of, you know, goodness that were trimmed off. I need a bigger desk. I need like a big L-shaped desk and a secretary and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm going to get the smaller trimmer. This is my old Boston trimmer. Okay, so we've got 11 inches. I'm going to try to make this into 2 covers. So 5.5. And then we know it's 8 inches wide, give or take 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to cut. So there's this weird little edge right there. Let me see. So it's shy of 8 inches. So I'm going to trim off that little weird edge. And then I'm going to go, just going to go to 7.5 because I can split that in half easily. So that's 3 3/4, right? Yeah. 3 3/4 is half of 7.5. So cut that in half now. Okay. So that's like a front and a back cover for a little mini. Yeah. And I'm going to just do the same on this one to cut off that weird little edge. It's where the box was folded. Okay. And then 3 3/4. Okay. So there's a couple little covers. And then we need a spine for that. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I've got my son working on digitals for me now, so it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. Finally getting some work out of him. And I thought about scanning these, but I just thought I can't scan everything. And I do have some digitals in my shop that are very similar to this, by the way, just saying. Okay, so we need to make a little spine. How wide do we want the spine to be? So these are 5.5 inches. So let's cut the height first. Okay, 5.5. I don't want to make them too thick. You know, like I don't want to have to put like 3 signatures or I mean like 5 signatures in them, but I think 3 little signatures would probably be good. So I'm just going to cut that to 1 inch. So it's going to have a 1-inch spine. Okay. So it'll be like that. And that'll be our little book. Okay. And we'll just use like tape and fabric and stuff to sort of build that. But for now, I'm just going to try to get these all sorted out, like to what I want them to be, and sort of give them each a purpose, give each piece a purpose. I really like this grungy paper on there. And I'd like to try to save that if possible so that you can still see that when these little mini journals are finished. So 5.5 and then 1 inch. Okay. So those are those two. So there's 2 little journal covers, 2 larger journal covers. So that's cool. See, that's how I kind of like put it all together and like identify what everything is going to be. And then these will just get rubber banded together so that they're like with like. This one actually wound up being a little bit smaller because the edge wasn't straight, so I had to sort of straighten it up. So it's a little bit smaller, but that's okay. Okay, so that's rubber banded. And I save all of these little bits, you know, because I'll show you. I like to make like little kind of like micro grungy tags with those. So let's see. I want to choose which ones of these I want to be the little mini journals. And it doesn't really matter. Like they're all very, very neutral. You know what I mean? Like there's no imagery or anything like that. And then we can just go back and add stuff to them later. Anyway, so I'll figure out how many minis I'm going to do and that kind of thing. This one I might wind up, I don't know, but I sort of like this one. So maybe I'll make this one into a larger size journal. Who knows? But with these little strips, so they can be, they could wind up being used as pockets in these journals. So, you know, you could take, so this one I'm going to also like add some kind of tape or glue some fabric on the inside of this too. And you could totally do a spine on these also. Like, you know, that's completely an option. Like just use one of these little scraps and make a spine on it, just like I want to do on the little minis. Anyway, but you know, you can use these little strips and just add them right on the inside cover like that, and you know, glue them down, and then you just got a little tuck spot there. Or you know, these could be cut into tag shapes. They're a little thick, like a little heavy to be tags, but not too bad. Even the little tiniest pieces can be used for something. You know, you could like I have this paper punch that punches like thick stuff. You know, they make those punches for thicker materials. I don't know if this one will do it. Yeah, no problem. So, you know, you can cut little shapes out of these pieces and ink them up and punch a hole and make it a little charm. You know, it's like even the tiniest little bits can get used. So, okay, so there's some of my ideas for the little strips. And then just get some covers put together, get everything sorted out, and then we can go from there. I don't know about these little strips. I mean, you know, you could save them. There's no reason that you couldn't save these and use them on covers of another journal or something like that. Like, it has interesting colors and, you know, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on who you are and, you know, how much you want to try to salvage. So what I like to do with these, sometimes with these little strips too, is make them into like micro tags. And so I will, I'm going to take some stamps and some little labels. Excuse me. So I will just glue some stamps on these. I guess I'll use the glue stick. I've had some questions about these glue sticks, and I did not get these on Amazon. They came from blick.com, and I put a link in the first video of this little series of like craft with me, and I added a link there for these glue sticks. And to be honest with you, I think they're really good. I do. I think they're really, really good glue, and I trust it. I'm not saying I don't trust the Amazon Basics glue or the Elmer's all-purpose. I do. I totally trust those glues also. I'm just looking to save a little bit of money. That's all. And, you know, especially if I'm going to be ordering art supplies from Blick anyway, like I might as well get some glue sticks too. That is so pretty. Look at that purple postage stamp. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm looking for like smaller postage stamps. Okay, this one is kind of thick and weird, so I'm actually going to use this glue. Use the art glitter glue on this one because it's just weird. Put it sideways. So I'm kind of just adding some other little like embellishments on this little strip. Let's do this yellow one too. I'll put this one up here at the top. Whoops, what's going on? Oh, it had some kind of weird backing on it that peeled right off. Okay. Okay, so I got a few little stamps, and then I have some little tiny labels. I know Tracy Fox has some kits with little tiny labels here and there, you know. I could do some stamping on these too. I don't happen to have anything other than number stamps over here right now. So, and my little number stencils. See, and that just wipes off the excess glue. Wait, let me find one more little label. Little tiny one. I love these little teeny tiny ones. Oh, and these kind of longer ones. I might overlap that on there a little bit. Okay. I think that's good. That's good for labels and stamps. And then what did I do with? Hold on. Hold the phone. You could washi tape, add some washi tape. Oh my gosh, just a gazillion things. Just decorate them up. And then we could add like, just like some little images. Like little tiny, these are just little tiny fussy cut mushrooms. You could add stickers, rub-offs, stamping, just whatever. Just decorate this whole thing up however you think, whatever you want to do. This is something you could totally do like in bed even. Like just get like a breakfast tray, you know, and just sit in bed and not. So here's a that's my intention. So this is also another really cool way to use images from dictionaries. This is a little sunflower illustration from a dictionary. Okay. So that's pretty good. Maybe one more. Since I'm in mushroom mode, I might as well just go for it. I'm so addicted to mushrooms right now. I shouldn't say that, but mushroom images, toadstools, whatever you want to call them. Okay. So those are little deals. And then, I mean, you could totally just go nuts decorating those. And then I will take my sewing machine and I'm going to put it on a really narrow zigzag. And I can't ever remember what the setting was that I like to use. So I just want to try this on something really quick. Yeah. Okay. So I'm on my Brother, what is it? A CS6000i sewing machine. And I'm using the number 4 zigzag stitch at 1.6 for the length and 2.0 for the width. Okay. So there is a little bit of wet glue on here, which I don't necessarily like to run through my sewing machine, but I'm just going to go for it because I do want you guys to see what's up. Okay, so then I'm just going to run a zigzag along both sides. Right along the edge, kind of as close as I can get. Sort of have to pull it. I abuse this sewing machine. You know, if your sewing machine is super precious to you, you might not want to run it through your machine with wet glue, but I am kind of hard on this machine. And this isn't the first time I've done that. It's kind of gotten like stuck a couple times and I just had to pull it through. So anyway, yeah, and then just stitch this side. So, I mean, you could glue fabric onto this. You could stitch fabric, little tiny fabric scraps, little pieces of lace, you know, I mean, just all kinds of possibilities for things you could attach to a strip. And since it's relatively, you know, heavy, these can get used on charms or whatever. And then I just come back and I just cut these like that. I just cut them totally random. Wait, I'm going to cut that one right there. Not so random on that one. Okay, and then I've got these weird little bits, just weird little pieces of images. And so I could come back and, you know, well, I'm going to trim off these edges that are kind of sticking out. Just because. Sometimes what I like to do instead of cutting it is actually use that sandpaper and kind of work it off, just because it gives it a nice kind of distressed edge. You know, when you're going to cut, when you need to trim an edge like that, just use a emery board or whatever. Anyway, so there's those. And this stitching, you know, it might start to come out a little bit or whatever, but I mean, it's just a tiny little thing, you know. And these you could leave like that. Staple them onto the edge of a page just to use as like a little tuck spot or whatever. I like to cut the corners off like that, and then maybe punch a hole and put an eyelet in it, ink it up, maybe round the corners even, and then just use these as little embellishments. Like this one where I wound up with the stem of the mushroom and part of that label. That's okay. Like that's totally fine. I could glue something else on there if I wanted to, or, you know, add a piece of fabric or another little image or whatever. Anyway, so it's just kind of fun to just play with these little scraps and turn them into something more precious. You know what I mean? Anyway, okay, so those are my ideas for today on our repurposing cereal boxes and cereal, you know, food packaging and that kind of stuff. So we'll see how far I get, and I will, maybe I'll come back on later and make another video, and share with me what you're doing in the comments. That would be really, really cool. I was so happy that a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm going to play along. So yeah, play along. I want to know what you guys are doing. And, you know, maybe I'm so bad about Facebook, you guys. I'm really sorry. Like, I just suck at Facebook. But if anybody would like to start a thread on my Facebook group about, you know, what we're doing, that would be so cool. And I would really appreciate it. And then, you know, you guys could share your work in there, you know, and let me know. I'm curious to know. A few people have said that they've done like collage swaps where, you know, you do part of a collage. And I don't know if this is a great idea at this time of the world, but people have been like, they do a little bit of work on the collage and then they send it to somebody else and then they do some work on it and then the next person, and, you know, it kind of just goes around. I think that would be kind of fun to do. I think it would be a long project. Like, it would take a long time, but, you know, if we could get together, like maybe groups of 6 people, and then each person starts one and then sends it to the next person. And then by the time it gets back to you, you know, it's done or whatever. I don't know. I think that would be fun. So let me know if you'd be interested in doing something like that. And maybe I can try to find somebody to help me coordinate that. Anyways, okay, guys, I love you. And go check out those digitals that I listed in my Etsy shop. And I have another, I have the children's readers set also. I'm probably going to film those here in a little while. So yeah, all kinds of videos coming out of me today. Anyway, okay, guys, love you. Bye for now.